Hello and welcome to Wine Blast. As ever, I'm Susie, he's Peter. We're still masters of wine, last time I checked anyway. This is the first show of season 6, our 132nd episode to date, for what it's worth.
Okay.
And it's a special one.
Special in so many ways, just like me. Very special. I'll come on to why that is in just a second. The show being special,
not you.
Being special.
No, that could take a long time.
I think that was obvious. But first things first, this is a show about Chilean wine and just how exciting, diverse, funky, fun and downright fine Chilean wine is these days. If you think you know Chilean wine, you may need to think again after this one. Here's a taster of what's coming up.
Wine started in the 1550s in Chile, 474 years ago. So, yeah, we're a new world, but I would like to talk about mezzo world also.
We are now in a point of inflection. We have opened the doors for fine wines from Chile.
Chile is not only Cabernet Sauvignon and Carmener. Today we are more fun. Today we are more exciting.
So there we heard from Edgard Carter, Eduardo Chadwick and María Cumsille. And we'll be hearing more from them and other key Chilean wine figures during the course of this programme, as well as recommending some epic wines.
Yes.
Because this is our special edition Chile Wines of the Year episode. But before we launch into that, we wanted to mention some good news, didn't we?
Did we?
Yeah. Didn't we?
Did I miss something?
I don't think you
Just
missed
joking,
anything. I don't think you did.
Look at your face, is good. It was worth it. We have been over the moon, literally walking on sunshine for the past few days. After the podcast won at the 67 PALL Global Wine Communicator Awards, we were honoured to be nominated alongside such amazing and, fresh, young, brilliant talent. We were blown away that Wine Blast won.
We were. It was a big woohoo.
Big smiles.
Yeah, so thanks to 67 PALL and the judges. But most of all, thanks to you for tuning in and supporting us. We couldn't do it without you, and we cannot tell you how much we appreciate you joining us on a regular basis to celebrate this wonderful thing that we all call wine. One of the reasons we called the pod Wine Blast is that we have a blast doing it. We hope you do too, listening to it. So thank you for being a part of it all. We cannot tell you how much it means to us.
Yeah, and do check out the 67 PALL Awards website. There are some fantastic things there to enjoy, including other wine podcasts, video content writing. It's all very cool. We'll put a link in our show notes. But enough tooting of trumpets, probably. I think. Let's get on with the show. And I think we should start by explaining what exactly this Chile Wines of the Year thing is. No? Should we start
good point. So regular listeners will know that our Wines of the Year has become a bit of a staple in the lineup, where we choose our favourite wines from the previous year. We like it because it generates a real debate. We get lots of feedback about it and discussions ensue. And at the end of the day, it's all about celebrating great wine. So we thought, why not extend this concept to specific regions to be able to focus in a bit more and highlight the most exciting, cutting-edge stuff from one particular place. Yeah,
now Chile was an obvious first destination. We taste a lot of Chilean wine. We've both visited a fair bit over the last 25 years. Plus, I used to live and work there, speak the language. I've written 2 books and a Master of Wine dissertation on the subject.
I think you've been called the world's leading commentator on Chilean wine, haven't you? At least that's what our press release says that you wrote.
I'm blushing. That's all I can say. But Chile has been a specialist field for a while. But more than that, this Chile Wines of the Year project was partly born out of frustration, wasn't it? That whenever we go to Chile and taste and travel and talk to producers, we see a really vibrant, funky, cool set of wines. But then when we get back here to a major market like the UK, that's not the reality we see of Chilean wine, which is often, really limited to pretty basic stuff, if we're honest. Often cheap and cheerful Cabernet or Sauvignon Blanc. And, it's just exasperating.
I mean, it is, especially when the cool stuff can be such good value too.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's not even as if the cost is necessarily a barrier. You'd actually think in a cost of living crisis that Chilean wine would frankly be taking off. So yes, a certain frustration was at the root of this initiative. So we wanted to try to change things by showcasing a range of super exciting Chilean wines.
Yeah, so we drew up a hit list of cool producers and wines. We worked with Wines of Chile to call those in for a huge tasting we did in June 2024. It was really intense. We tasted and retasted, some blind, some not. We tasted individually, then we tasted together. I think we argued.
We definitely argued.
There were some
quite
intense
a bit.
discussions.
People will be pleased to hear this.
The top wines we retasted many times, and from that epic tasting, we chose just over 100 to be our Chile Wines of the Year 2024.
Yeah. So these wines are really special because, of course, all these wines were pre-selected by us, and even then, a lot of excellent wines didn't make the final cut. Yep. So these are wines that are well worth checking out. And then we also gave some top awards, didn't we, based on the tasting?
Yeah, so this is the big reveal. Here we go, the big moment. And by the way, we're also publishing our full Chile Wines of the Year report on our website, susieandpeter.com. It's free to download and with tons of tasting notes and recommendations and information and stories. So do check that out. Again, we'll put a link in the show notes. We won't have time to go through the full listing in this show, so that report has everything in an easy reference format.
Okay, so that's the preface to our Chile Wines of the Year.
Yes.
What we're going to do in this episode is hear from key Chilean wine figures about how they made their award-winning wines and also get their top tips on what's exciting, good value, what to buy right now, what the future holds. We've got some great stories and tips, including great value Pinot Noir, the holy grail for wine lovers.
Yes.
And hopefully through all this, we're going to paint a vivid and intriguing picture of modern Chilean wine and its rightful place in the world.
Now, we should, of course, thank Wines of Chile for sponsoring this project and podcast. But, as ever, all opinions and recommendations are entirely our own and unbiased. That's a given on this podcast, as you all know very well by now. So how about we start with a very, very brief intro to Chile and some opinions?
Okay, let's go.
Right.
So Chile is the 5th largest wine producer in the world. Its long wine history goes back to the 16th century when Spanish conquistadors brought vines to their newly conquered territories in South America. Chile is an extraordinarily long, thin country perched on the southwest frontier of South America. If you transposed it onto the northern hemisphere, it would reach from London to Luxor in Egypt. This means it has huge geographic and climatic diversity, stretching as it does from the parched Atacama Desert in the north to glaciers and icebergs in its extreme Patagonian south.
I used to get called a long streak of piss at school. I think that Chile probably got the same treatment in the schoolyard. That's all I can say.
I didn't need to know that.
That's all I can say. There's a kinship there.
I thought you were going to say a string bean or something. Polite.
Long streak of piss. I've never got over it. Anyway, after various political upheavals in the 20th century, Chile's wine industry boomed in the 1990s, and it made its name on the back of cheap and cheerful wines made from well-known grape varieties like Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, Chardonnay and Sauvignon Blanc. Since the turn of the millennium, however, there's been much greater focus on expressing terroir, nuance and unique identity in the wines.
So that hopefully sets the scene for our tasting and our interviews. But just before we get into those, how about one headline opinion each, maybe to shake things up, get everyone thinking?
Okay, great idea. You go first.
Oh, okay, right, fine, my idea. I'll go first.
Your opinion. Go on.
Well, I've got a heretical opinion.
We like those. Go on.
And it's that on current form, Chile is performing better with its white wines than its reds.
And this from a country whose vineyard is 3/4 red.
But that is almost the point, isn't it? We assume
maybe.
Red is Chile's forte because it's mostly planted to Cabernet Sauvignon and Merlot and Carmenère and País. And of course, its reds are very good.
Yeah.
But actually, I think its whites are more exciting. If I could have any Chilean wine right now, for example, I'd ask for a white.
That is very, very interesting. And do you know what? I wouldn't entirely disagree, actually, especially given, just thinking about it, just how delicious so many of the whites are in our wines of the year this year. So, yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. Heretical, fair.
Your turn.
Right, okay. Okay. Well, I would say, again, thinking back to tasting, I'd say Chile needs to be more green. It's probably one of the best, the easiest places in the world to grow grapes. They call it a viticultural paradise. They don't even have really phylloxera, this pest that kills vines all over the world. So a lot of their vines still grow on their own roots, which is unique and isn't often said very much. And yes, some of the wines are organic and biodynamic and regenerative, but they need to do more. They need to be more. They need to show more on this front. One key thing here is they really need to bin the heavy bottles. Oh my word. They are so bad for the planet in terms of carbon emissions.
And so unnecessary.
While they're being shipped. They're unnecessary. They give off all the wrong messages. Cool new icon wines come in lightweight bottles, Chile. Climate change is messing with everything, wine in particular, and Chile needs to get ahead of that one.
Yeah, I mean, thinking back to the tasting, we did have far too many heavy bottles in our tasting, didn't we?
Definitely.
And it's not just damaging the planet, my shoulders from lifting them up to pour the blooming things. Anyway, that's some context and opinion to kick us off.
Yeah.
Let's get on to our award-winning interviewees.
Yes.
And first up, we have Felipe Marin, winemaker at Casa Marin. Without doubt, one of Chile's very best wine producers. He had 3 wines of the year: Cypressus Sauvignon Blanc, Miramar Riesling and Littoral Pinot Noir. All outstanding. And as a result, he won the very prestigious Best Winemaker Award.
Yeah, well done, Felipe. It's a nice story. So Felipe's mum, Marilu, set up the winery. At the time, everyone thought she was bonkers because she was planting in extreme coastal territory, steep hillsides, just 4 kilometres from the Pacific shoreline, and coastal in Chile means cool because of the icy Humboldt current that flows up the Pacific coast like a sort of giant aircon unit in the sea. But then these unbelievably vibrant, complex wines started emerging. I remember when the first ones came out. And of course, it was a genius move. Felipe's been winemaker for a short while now, and it's so nice to see him emerging from, in a way, from Marilu's fearsome reputation to be his own man.
Yeah, absolutely. So I asked him actually how he goes about making the unique wine that is his Cypressus Sauvignon Blanc.
I've learned through all these years being a winemaker in Casa Marin that for me, the rule number 1 is to walk the vineyards. To walk the vineyards and get to know your vines and to really pick the grapes at the right timing and not to pick everything at once. I like to pick some of the fruit very green and then fruit at the right timing where I think is at its best, and then something later on, and we have small tanks in the cellar, so I can keep things separately, and then when it's time to make the blend, I have a lot of material to make the blend, and also there's a percentage that goes into barrel. So what I do is try to minimize the when I make the wine, I don't add too many winemaking products. I try to keep it as pure as possible and try to work, with everything that I have, with the lees, with the barrels, with the picking time. And that's how I create the blend,
And similarly with the Riesling, again, a highly individual style. How do you go about that one? Is it different to the Sauvignon?
Yeah, well, yes, it's different because I only have 2 hectares of Riesling, so what it's been giving me a good confidence on making this wine. It's my trips to Germany and get to know the wines and also the wines from Alsace and have a better understanding on how the wine has to be, because, in Chile, we're not known for Rieslings and it's been a long way, but I would have to say that the vines of this variety adapt very well with the Loa Barca climate, So in these conditions, we keep a good bright acidity, and that's very much needed for this grape variety, So it's been a key process to get to understand the variety.
What would you say is most exciting in Chilean wine right now?
I think that the whites in Chile, it's something that people don't know, but people normally talk about reds, cheap reds, about Chile or good quality reds. But on the whites, I think we have done a good work. There's nice winemakers that understand how to make a white wine.
And are there particular grape varieties that you think are better in Chile than others in terms of whites?
I would say number one for me, it's Sauvignon Blanc. Clearly, it delivers that crisp, that sense of place. However, I've started to see good Chardonnay projects, in the south, in the north, in the coast. So I think that, and it's getting away from that bulky vanilla Chardonnay. Now what you can find is more steely, mineral-driven wines, and that's what people like. And in a restaurant, or it's good. I've been seeing this in the past 8 to 6 years, and it's on the right direction.
Felipe, huge congratulations, our Winemaker of the Year 2024, and thank you for talking to us.
I'm so honored to see that. The team is going to be so excited about this, and I am so excited, and I really wanted to thank you and Peter for your prize.
So he agrees with us about the whites being the most exciting thing about Chile right now. Boom.
Well, I guess he isn't entirely unbiased, given most of his output is white.
That's true.
But yeah, I agree with him. The quality and diversity of Sauvignon Blanc, and particularly Chardonnay, is outstanding right now in Chile.
Agreed.
Our top white in the Wines of the Year is a Chardonnay, and there are so many beautifully fresh, savoury, complex Chilean Chardonnays. We had a huge array of different styles of Sauvignon Blanc too, from super restrained and cultured to full-on, even orange. No wonder plantings have doubled in the last 20 years. And there's so much beyond those two varieties as well.
Yeah, well, like Riesling, as you were just discussing with Felipe, and Casa Marin also make a lovely Sauvignon Gris. But it was interesting to hear him saying how important it is to walk the vineyards and keep things minimal in the winery. For me, those are two signs really of a top class winemaker when they focus on those kind of things. And also, he said how valuable it is to travel and taste fine wine from all around the world. He mentioned Germany and Alsace. That's something Chilean winemakers never used to travel, never used to taste all the top classics from around the world. Now they do, and it's essential.
Totally agree. You cannot make something unique until you know what else is out there. And talking of being out there and travelling, our next interviewee is Ricardo Baettig, who studied and made wine in Italy as well as Chile. Now, in this interview, he references the wonderful orange wines of Friuli in northeast Italy, which, of course, we explored at length in our episodes on orange wine, which are well worth a listen.
Good plug. Love that link. Now, Ricardo is head winemaker at Morandé in Chile, a producer whose eponymous founder, Pablo Morandé, pioneered the cool climate Casablanca Valley for crisp whites and elegant reds back in the sort of the 80s and 90s, at a time when most Chilean wine was confined to the sort of warm, fertile Central Valley. Two Morandé wines were wines of the year: the spicy, peppery Casa Tinta red blend of Malbec, Syrah and Cabernet Franc, and also the gorgeous Terroir Patrimonial Semillon, which picked up the Best Value White Award.
But Ricardo is a man of many talents, isn't he? He also has his own side project called Atacalco with his friend Carlos Spora, making small production innovative wines. Their Carabe de Atata Semillon Moscatel blend was also a wine of the year, together with the Carabe de Casablanca, a Pinot Gris made with skin contact, which also scooped the Best Rosé Award. I asked Ricardo how and why he makes such a unique style of Pinot Gris.
Well, and we share a Pinot Gris fermented with skins from Colli Orientale del Friuli. And we love it. So when we start making wines in Atacalco, we decided to make this kind of wine just for fun for us and see how it performs. And we love a lot, but the most important thing is many people love it. So we decided to put as a proper wine in our portfolio, we produce 4 wines. But this one in the beginning wasn't on purpose made for commercial issues. And the result and the answers of the friends and people that tasted was so good that we decided to start selling. So come from our pleasure for wines from Colli Orientale, and my experience in Italy at that time, and Carlos really loved it when he lived in New York. So he tasted a lot of wines like that, and this one was one of we enjoyed the most.
Well, we enjoyed it very much. So inspired by Northern Italy. We absolutely loved it. Just moving on to the Semillon. How do you manage to make a Semillon that's so characterful, but also great value? You know, it's not a variety people normally associate particularly with Chile, but it is also the basis of your Atacalco Carabe de Atata too, isn't it? So you obviously like working with it.
Was the first Atacalco. We born as a growers or producers with this Semillon from Itata. The family of Carlos come from this area of Ñuble. And as you know, Susie, but no, a lot of people knows the white grapes from Chile in the past, before Sauvignon Blanc, before Chardonnay, was Semillon actually. So there's quite a lot of old vine Semillons in the drylands, in the Secano areas, kind of forgotten because they are not in fashion for many years. And I know Semillon for many years ago, so I really enjoy this. It's capable to produce maybe not as aromatic wine as Sauvignon Blanc, but with a lot of texture and interesting mouthfeel. Old vines make the whole difference. Not irrigated, bush pruning. These are lovely vineyards in the south of Chile. So we thought that we can show that to the consumers, and that was the reason why we start making this Semillon with the skins from Itata.
It's very good, very good. Let's just move the Morandé Casa Tinta. Let's move on to that, the red. You've got a blend here of Malbec, Syrah, and Cabernet Franc, I think, from the cool climate Casablanca region. You know, how does that one work? It's quite an unusual red blend, isn't it? What are you aiming for?
Yeah, it's easier for us as winemakers to travel much more than 20 years ago. So we went many times to Argentina, try Malbecs. I really enjoy the ones from the high altitude, Gualtallarí, Uco in general, the kind of floral character. So we planted in Casablanca, our coastal valley, but let's say cold weather is not as cold as other new regions like Malleco or something. So the Malbec that we planted there shows immediately sort of violet, jasmine when we are lucky, floral character that I enjoy a lot. And we thought in Morandé, again, to try to create a path, a show like a lighthouse to the Chilean industries. It's a big word, but Morandé started doing his first wines in Casablanca when Casablanca doesn't exist as a wine region. And we think that we can do the same or help to do the same with other growers to put Casablanca in the map as a fine, top quality red wines too, with completely different approach. I mean, red fruit, floral, more elegant, lower alcohol. And that's the effort and the aiming of Casa Tinta, to show a possibility of make red wines from the coastal area that are completely different than the ones in the Andes or the Central Valley. Just
a few quick fire questions about Chilean wine in general. What do you think is most exciting in Chilean wine right now?
Many things, but the thing that I'm enjoying the most, and many people too, our colleagues, is the new regions that we are exploring and now getting deeper on that. Huasco is one of the newest interesting wines. The one that we are doing also in Malleco, Traiguén, and also a little farther south, we're doing things in Cautín, who's a little 100 kilometers south than Traiguén. So these extreme regions, but with commercial purposes. I mean, not not just trials. I mean, those are regions that are making truly unique and top quality wines. That to me is the things most important right now. And it's not that new, but you know, Susie, that in Chile we're growing quite a lot now with old vines. That's the other thing that I truly believe that is one of the top things on Chile right now.
And any particular varieties do you think there is more of in terms of old vine?
Well, you know, the Carignan for a while is doing good stuff, but País and Sanso, we're learning a lot. If you compare the País and Sanso 10 years ago, now are much better because we understand better and manage better the vineyards. But the thing that I'm more exciting right now myself is the Cabernet Sauvignon, and more than 100 years old dry farming that we found by chance in Itata, and it's a unique wine. It's fantastic.
And what would you say has been the biggest change in Chilean wine over the last decade or so?
Yeah, many things, but in a way, the self-confidence of growers and winemakers, but growers in particular, that realize that we have very unique and interesting wines that we would like to show to the consumers. You know, Chileans are sometimes a little shy. So this change to me is positive for us to be secure or sure that we have quite interesting things. So this is to me this change of mind is important and the most important thing right now.
So if you had an insider tip when it comes to Chilean wine, something that maybe, you know, isn't common knowledge but might help people get the most out of their Chilean wine, what would it be?
Yeah, you know, that's funny because I think people should know that Chile is a cold country in a way. You know, we have a very hot summer, but dry. And people, maybe because South America, could think that Chile is, I don't know, tropical or very hot, but we're in a way very cold country. And I invite the consumers to explore more in cold climate wines from the country.
And how do you see the future for Chilean wine?
Well, I see a future divided in two, both valid. I mean, both important for the country. But the one that is more interesting to me is I saw Chile with a lot of small, new, I would say new projects, but now they are realities, new growers, new producers. This is the most important thing to the midterm future right now.
I think that point about self-confidence is so important to stress. You know, 20 years ago, a Chilean winemaker showed you his wines and would sort of meekly say, how should I change them to make them better? You know, nowadays, they confidently explain why their wine is unique and how proud they are of it. And it's fantastic to see that evolution.
But I think this has come about because of all these little side projects and small productions that are so valuable in terms of showcasing the real potential of Chilean wine beyond the mainstream. Mm-hmm. You know, some aren't the most commercial, but I think Ricardo used the term, and we could use it here, these are lighthouse wines, showing the way, proving what can be done so others can follow. And his Pinot Gris is just like that.
I agree. It's a delicious wine, isn't it? I think it's debatable whether it's actually an orange wine or a rosé, but it looks like a rosé, it feels like a rosé, and we've given it a rosé award, so it's damn well going to be a rosé.
But I also think that self-confidence comes from travel, and we heard it from Felipe, and of course Ricardo has worked in Italy and talked about Argentinian Malbec. And then you've got the value of the old vines, which he quite rightly points out. I mean, if you're going to make something special and unique, which speaks of its place, old vines are a great starting point.
Totally agree. So we're going to come on to talk about the likes of País and Carignan in due course. Meantime, just a quick word on Semillon. It's not a variety closely associated with Chile, but it used to be really quite widely planted. It's also not easy to make into something exciting. So, you know, growers in Chile have been quietly ditching it over the years. You know, today's Chilean Semillon vineyard is only a quarter of what it was in 1999. And that's a tragedy Because nowadays, you've got these old vines in interesting places, people doing really, really intriguing things with them.
Like Ricardo.
Exactly, yeah.
That modern day Semillon is so gorgeous and textured and such amazing value too.
Value.
And the Carabe Dietata is great as well, based on Semillon.
Yeah.
We need another campaign, I think. Save the Sem.
Yes!
I can feel a T-shirt coming on once again.
Affirmative action, love it. Save the Sem, make me, I'll take a batch. And as a final comment, he did say Chile's a cold country, making elegant, cool climate wines. Again, tying in with our theme of exciting whites, and increasing finesse in the wines. Right. Time to take a breath. Coming up, we have some more incisive opinion and delicious wines. To recap so far, Chile is defying stereotypes, from coastal Riesling to skin contact Pinot Gris and old vine Semillon. Its whites are arguably its strongest suit on current form, and a newfound self-confidence amongst growers is seeing ever more individual, refined wines being made. Chilean wine, in short, is evolving fast.
And that brings us on nicely to our next interviewee, María Cumsille. A bit like Ricardo Bettig, María wears two hats. On the one hand, she's head winemaker at Viña Carmen, one of Chile's oldest wine producers, which has had a new lease of life lately. Testament to which is their pungent, saline, sherry-like wine, D.O. Florian, which won our White Innovation Award.
But she also makes her own wines in the far south, including the Cypress Malbec from ancient vines and her long-aged País Moscatel Semillon Torrontel blend. Both are wines of the year, but the latter also bagged White Discovery.
I started by asking her about her Malbec, a grape variety we associate more closely with Argentina or Cahors in France. So how does she make such a good one in Chile?
This Malbec is from Itata. Like all my wines are from Itata. But the particular thing, it's a very old vines. The vines has, I think, at least 200 years old. Many years ago, I saw this vineyard and I want to vinificate it, but I haven't the grapes. And for many years, I tried to buy these grapes because it comes from a small producer, his name is Nelson Garcia. I put the name in the label. And finally, I get these grapes. And I think that the success in this wine is the grapes, really. It's a wonderful vineyard, very old vines. It's from the Secano Costero. We call Secano Costero this part of the region because it doesn't have the irrigation, and the grapes are really fantastic. And I try only, the vinification is very traditional. I try the minimal intervention in the vinification. Really, I try to express the terroir, I try to express Itata, I try to express the grapes. Finally, they are fantastic. It's a minimal intervention.
Well, it's minimal intervention, maximum impact, because it's a delicious wine. Now, just moving on to your intriguing blend of Moscatel Semillon Torrontel that's got a bit of age. It's the 2018 vintage from Itata. Just tell me a little bit about that blend and the idea behind it.
Yes, this wine start our experimentation. When I think in white in Itata, when I think in wines in white wines like this, all the time in Itata the wines was made with the skin, and I vinificate every variety separate, Moscatel de Alejandría, Semillon, and Torrontel, and I made the skin contact for 8 months, and then I separate the skin from the wine, and I put in all barrels for 4 years. I wanted to make a white, but make like a red wine.
Well, it's intriguing. It really is, and fascinating. But so is the final wine. So the Carmen Florian. So this is quite unique. Sort of almost shockingly characterful, reminiscent of kind of a Fino sherry or a Jura wine that's matured under flor. But of course, it's made from Semillon in a palta. What was your inspiration?
And this is a very old vineyard also. I think the Semillon, it's a little neutral variety and always need a little some technical vinification in order to have more character in Semillon. And I feel the flor in Semillon, it's very good because gives to the wine a special character, very strong, and I think for this, we keep this wine for 12 months in flor, and that gives to the wine a very, very special structure, very special character, very vertical wine, high acidity, nice balance in and all the characteristic the wines make with flor. We want to make something really different.
It is definitely different, and we both absolutely loved it. What would you say is most exciting right now about Chilean wine?
I think the last year, the most exciting things are the diversity. Today, you can find a lot of terroir in different places, to the north, to the south, coast, cordillera, and you can find a lot of different wines. Chile is not only Cabernet Sauvignon and Carmener. They are fantastic, but today we are more fun. Today we are more exciting, I think. We can different wines, different expression. And another things I think is the development of the small project. Many of them made for winemakers, and they make different things. Me also, we want to make different wines, different expression, the wines more exciting. So sometimes not very commercial wines, but very good wines.
And what should people be looking to buy?
I think Chile it's very strong in Cabernet Sauvignon also. But today, if you want to know Chile, you have to taste wines, for example, from Limarí, from Huasco, from Traillén, Itata, from Maule. In Carmen, we just released a espumante from Chiloé that is very new and very exciting, sparkling Pinot Noir.
Fabulous. Ana Maria, huge congratulations yet again, and thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I'm very happy, very, very happy with the results, really.
So a bit of a scoop there on their new fizz from Chiloé. That's very exciting. Totally off the charts in terms of the Chilean wine map. Extreme southerly territory. We did actually talk about that area in our last episode on Chile back in 2020. Chile gets cool after I visited the area. It's stunning, but it's a great example of what she's talking about: innovative, small production wines that are really exciting.
Yeah. She also, of course, talks about pushing back the boundaries of Chilean wine territory. Expressing terroir, old vines, and her Itata wines really are brilliant showcases for the region. They're full of character, but also well made. Really fine wines.
Yeah, southern Chile comes up a lot in this episode and in the wines of the year. For a long time in Chile, the south was just overlooked as sexier places of varieties like Cabernet from Maipo, were championed. But in the last decade, the south, which is cooler and rainier, so naturally makes for more elegant wines. Plus, it's got this wealth of old vine history, has really risen in prominence. It's been great to see, largely off the back of forward-thinking winemakers like Anna Maria working hard to make, superb small production wines down there.
Yeah, and Etata has many things planted. But I think on the subject of Moscatel, what's interesting is the way Anna Maria is working to tame those vivid aromatics Moscatel can have and maximise its palate texture, by blending, by skin contact, by long aging before release. And if you add to that the natural acidity and minerality that old vine Moscatel from Etata can have, it's a winning formula.
Yeah. So Moscatel is quite widely planted in the south, along with things like País, these older vines. And it's really interesting how she's working to make it more complex and interesting. I completely agree. As for those Malbec vines, 200 years old, it's hard not to see why Chilean winemakers are saying, look, we're not just about cheap and cheerful wines.
When you talk old vines, that's probably old.
We have important things to say and important wines for you to try. My word.
Now, someone else who's focused on Etata is François Massoc. He's a Chilean winemaker with French heritage who studied and worked in France and also Israel before settling back in Chile. He now owns a winery. He calls it an atelier in Etata, making wines for many other people, as well as his own Massoc Frère brand, 2 wines from which, Grand País and Le Moscatel, are wines of the year. He also makes crazy stuff like fortified wine, grape brandy, and a herbal liqueur called Elixir. Finally, I'd just mention he works closely with his wife.
Yeah, he must be mad. Sorry, did I say mad? I didn't say mad, did I? I meant inspired. That's what it didn't come out right. Sorry, maybe I just thought I said what I was thinking. No, François,
you're treading on very thin ice.
Very special talent, François. He just totally breaks the mold when it comes to Chilean wine. He's intuitive, he's brave, he's emotional, he's hugely collaborative. His partnership with his wife Noelle is brilliant.
Is it?
Just like ours.
Good.
I'd like
Excellent.
Maybe I'll do some damage repair after this. Glass of champagne, glass of fizz. Anyway, glass of sparkling Chiloé. Anyway, he's a guiding light, François, to so many others in the Chilean wine community. That's great to see. But beyond that, he also makes the Aristos brand, which he originally set up with well-known Burgundian producer Louis-Michel Liger-Belair, 2 Chardonnays from which are wines of the year, and one, the Duquesa da 2016, is our top white.
And it is staggeringly beautiful. You can make everything up to me with a glass or 2 of that.
Done. Right. If only everything in life was so easy. Anyway, I completely agree. It is the most stunning wine. But let's hear from François. Just by way of preface, Aubert de Vilaine is the co-owner and long-time custodian of Domaine de la Romanée-Conti, perhaps Burgundy's most iconic estate. And Mounir Saouma is also a supremely gifted Burgundian winemaker. And we featured him on our Burgundy episode back in 2021. That was really fun. But anyway, I asked François, what's his secret when it comes to making exceptional Chardonnay?
Honestly, there's no secret. I'm not a brilliant guy. I'm just a good worker. That's maybe my only talent. I have a big capacity to work. I learn in France from the best. I haven't invented nothing. I just try to keep humble and to be honest with what every year the grapes give me. We believe in what we do. Every year we try to improve and to be as accurate, as clean as it's possible. That's no more secret than that hard work. I'm very lucky, as you are, to work with my wife. And a lot of people ask me that it has to be very complex, but we work very good. She's very professional. She tastes wonderfully. And that's another big thing is she gave me a lot of rest, a lot of peace and confidence to continue the path that we choose.
So I'd like to ask you a bit more about that. That's really intriguing. Tell us a little bit how does that work and how does that inform your approach as a winemaker?
In Burgundy, one person, when I was young and as any young, when you finish the university, you feel that you can eat the world, that you can know a lot of things. One day I was talking with someone that has a big influence in me, for example, Monsieur de Vilaine. Once we were discussing how Pinot Noir has to be done, and I was talking about pirage, remontage, He told me, no, you need to take your time. Be careful of what you want to extract because you can get it. So it's like go slow, take your time, see, taste. Some years you're going to have great things, other years not. So try to do the best that every year can offer to you. Other guy that had a lot of influence in Burgundy was Matias Rios from Lucien Lemoine. He sent me to Israel, so he's on the same path. So there are guys that understood that it's more than technical, it's more than scientific knowledge, it's patience and respect of what you're having. Science is very good, very important, is to understand what went wrong when you made a mistake. But if everything is going well, naturally it's going to happen very well.
Now, with Massoc Frère, you're making some very exciting, elegant, characterful wines from Itata in the south of Chile. What is it about this region that excites you in terms of the wines?
It's wonderful. As here you can find the old viticulture, and if you put a little bit of attention of some progress in viticulture, you can have great wines. For example, the Grand País that you had, it comes from a vineyard that was planted 250 years ago. On that time, no Chilean independence, no French Revolution, nothing, and the plants were there giving wine. And what we try to do with those grapes is treating those grapes as they were the finest Pinot Noir from the finest Burgundian appellation, and with love, taking care of the best technique, the best barrels, all the time that you need. And I personally really like País. It's so different of other things that I've tasted. And for me, it's giving a chance from really unique wines that you really, I'm sure you cannot find in another place in the world. We are aging the wines in big, new, Raouli vats that we're making in here in the winery.
Raouli is a wood that used to be used in Chile, but everyone got rid of it. It fell out of fashion. So why are you using it again? What's it giving the wines?
Because as everything you need to understand, Raouli is a very particular Chilean oak, if we can say. It's a red oak, very beautiful. I made all my fermentation vats, open vats in Raouli. It works pretty good. I think I prefer than French oak open vats. It will not have any influence from particular or marked wooden taste, and it's very old oak and very old wood. And I recycled from old tanks, so there's wood that already lived a lot, and it gives very accurate micro-oxygenation that helps to give more complexity and to build more solid molecules to help the wine to age. Having Moscatel, the wine that you taste is at 21, 3 years old. Yesterday, we drank a bottle from the 2018 with Noel, and it was very good, very fresh, very young too.
What's the most exciting thing in Chilean wine right now?
Chile is awakening and starting to believe in its diversity and how different it can be from the rest of the world. I really want that we finish that kind of maturity, intellectual maturity, not to compare to other countries, but believe in how we're unique and different, for good or for bad. And we are finding our identity. We are having young winemakers, young producers that are believing and keeping in what they think it's better. And I'm happy that I'm happily drinking a lot of wines from other colleagues.
Sometimes it's hard to find the most exciting wines in Chile outside of the country.
Well, I think it's something about focusing, because normally when you have wineries that have some manager that think on a financial, commercial point, and they write sometimes, but they try to send a sample of things that they think are going to be easy to sell. good price point, and they keep us hiding gems, those special wines that they are not too sure that they are going to be sold or they're going to show very well. So in fact, is our job, your job, our job to show those gems and to show diversity. We have a lot of diversity. And as it happens in all the world, when you go to France, you have so many different wines. And in Chile, it's not exactly the same, but we have a lot too. And we need to show, we need to talk about. And it's not to making the best wine of the world. It's making something different, something good.
How do you see the future for Chilean wine?
I'm always optimistic. I think because Chile it was the main title of a class when I was studying in France in viticulture. The main title was Chile is the Vine Paradise. Here we have the best opportunities in the world to make the best grapes. And if you have the best grapes, you can make the best wine.
So our job is to show these gems, these special wines. And that's exactly what we're doing with our wines of the year. Exactly. Things like ancient País, made like it's top-notch Burgundy.
Yeah, I love that approach. So, and why the hell not? I love the way he says it's not necessarily just about being the best. It's about being different. It's about crafting a unique identity. And País is a good case in point. It's País originally a pretty humdrum domestic winemaking grape. Its origins lie in Spain, but it's sort of slightly disappeared there. It's also grown in the Canary Islands, where it's known as Listán Prieto. It was taken to Chile in the 1500s and just hung around, often being made into pretty nasty homebrew. I speak from personal experience, bitter personal experience. It's the same as Mission in the US or Criolla in Argentina. And now the old vines are being revived to make seriously cool, ambitious wines in the south of Chile. It's a brilliant story.
Interesting what he said too about repurposing old Rauli oak to ferment his wines in.
Yeah.
Back in the 1990s, everyone threw their Rauli out in the rush to install stainless steel tanks.
Totally.
But he clearly thinks it gives more complexity and an age-worthiness to the wines. Now that's intriguing.
It is. And nice what he said too about drinking colleagues' wines. For many years it was sort of an open secret that Chilean winemakers didn't drink their own wines, or their colleagues' wines, because they were just a bit dull and samey. But now it's all changed.
It has indeed. And just a final word, I think, before we move on about Chardonnay. We've talked about New Zealand and Australian Chardonnay on the pod, which are amazing and great alternatives to white Burgundy. Yeah. But let's not forget Chilean Chardonnay, which is on a roll right now.
Absolutely, well said. Right, next up we have Eduardo Chadwick, president of Viñedos Familia Chadwick, including Errázuriz. He's been on a mission for over 20 years to prove Chile can make wines as good, if not better, than the world's finest, and secure recognition for that. His famous Berlin tasting in 2004 shocked the wine world when his top wines, which include Don Maximiano, Senya and Viñedo Chadwick, were rated better than the likes of Chateau Margaux, Latour and Super Tuscan Celaya. He has since repeated the exercise many times, all with the aim of proving his point that Chile deserves a place at the top table of wine, and he has unquestionably succeeded.
Now, Errázuriz had 4 wines of the year, no less. Aconcagua Costa Sauvignon Blanc, Max Carmener, Estate Reserva Pinot Noir, which also won Best Value Red, and Don Maximiano, which we also named our top red wine, an Aconcagua Estate red blend of mainly Cabernet Sauvignon with some Malbec, Carmener and Petit Verdot.
Now, I asked Eduardo how Don Maximiano has evolved into such a complex yet refined style.
The Maximiano is the tradition, is a true testament of the best wine we want to do from our Don Maximiano terroir, which is the inland of the Aconcagua Valley. And this is really a wonderful terroir, a wonderful place where we want to produce the wine. I mean, the concept is a Cabernet-based wine, but the best blend, the best reflection of the terroir that we have at the Don Maximiano state. And you know that we've been working on this wine for the past 40 years in fine-tuning it. So I'm really delighted to have this award.
And Pinot Noir, is many wine lovers' favourite grape, but it's very rarely cheap. It's usually ruinously expensive. How can you guys make such a good value one?
Well, the key was planting the right soil. It was in the Aconcagua Costa where we have metamorphic soils of schist. And this is where we planted our Pinot Noir. And as you say, Pinot Noir is known for Burgundy, but Burgundy has become so expensive that I think here is a beautiful wine that has the purity, the minerality, the quality, and also at a very, by comparison to Burgundy, I think we're offering clearly a very good offer. So I'm delighted because Chile used to be known mainly for Cabernet blends, as Don Maximiano, our flagship. But Pinot Noir is a new grape variety, and it's a grape variety that needs to be recognized coming from Chile. As quality Pinot Noir from Chile. So this is a wonderful recognition.
Just turning to Carmenere briefly, you mentioned it already. Just remind us of the story of Carmenere, your initial thoughts about Carmenere and what the future holds for it now.
Well, Carmenere is the forgotten grape variety from Bordeaux. It used to be part of the top blends of the top chateaus in Bordeaux. And then it came to Chile, phylloxera attacked Europe, and the older Carmenere disappeared from Bordeaux. But in Chile, it thrived. And it's been really producing a great wine. It has acclimatized in Chile very nicely because we have a long season with a long sunny summer, dry, and that's what Carmenere needs to produce a great quality wine, a long growing season. But Carmenere is really, it's a beautiful, I would say, signature grape variety for Chile. It adds uniqueness and a signature grape variety by itself or as a component in blends. I'm strongly believer on the Carmenere. It's a grape variety that has had many lovers and people that, it has been a bit controversial, but I think when it is well made, it's really a loving wine. And
that's a really interesting point you mentioned about it being controversial because, some people have said, Carmenere is just for blending. It can't make a great wine just by itself. And I think what we've seen in recent years is people reassessing it and how to make it in a perfumed and more elegant style where it does stand alone by itself in absolutely beautiful fashion.
I think that's the key. But of course, the right terroir, the right climate, and not trying to overdo it. It's a wine that needs a nice, have to burn the pyracines, get it, the roundness, the sort of the richness, but in a nice balanced way that, is our style. We really aim for wines of purity, finesse, elegance. And I think Carmenere shows a great finesse. And that's what we try to do with the Max Carmenere.
And how do you see the future for Chilean wine, Eduardo?
Today, the Chilean wine industry is in a crisis. And I think the crisis sometimes helps to really take action because we've been talking about premiumizing the industry for many years. But in honesty, it hasn't happened in a strong way. And I think now people see that they're getting convinced in a hard way that is the future. I think we have the quality, we have the terroir, that's the key. Chile has been praised as a viticulture paradise. But in reality, in the past 20 years, many big companies have been doing more volume rather than premium and quality. I think that we are now in a point of inflection where we will see more little producers, small, fine quality wines from Chile, crafted wines from Chile, really getting more image and premiumization. And I'm convinced this is going to happen. It's being forced into the industry, but also at the same time, we have the recognition. 20 years ago, Peter, as you know, it was difficult because there was no recognition at the top. And now we have it. We have opened the recognition, the doors for fine wines from Chile. Takes time, takes effort. It's a long-term project, but we have proved it. And now is the time to really take the full spirit and pursue this route.
Inflection point. Sounds dramatic. I think what he's saying, correct me if I'm wrong, is that Chile has moved beyond the bargain basement image to being acknowledged for producing properly fine wine.
Yeah.
They're not mutually exclusive, of course. France, Spain, Italy, they all make cheap as chip stuff as well as some of the finest wines on the planet. But having an overriding reputation for one does tend to impede the other when you're trying to make your name.
Yeah, and these things take time. But, you know, quality will out. And there's an intriguing story behind Don Max. You know, the Errázuriz estate was founded in 1870, but the family lost it all in the agrarian reforms, then got it back, and it was built up by Eduardo's dad. The first vintage of this wine was 1983. I was trying the 1984 recently, the first one that was released. It's so old school, but delicious. Then the wine went a bit big in the 90s and 2000s, as was the fashion in Chile at the time. But since 2014 or so, they've been fine-tuning, as Eduardo says, focusing on elegance. And now it's sensational.
We're often talking about Cabernet Sauvignon as if it's yesterday's news, but it is still nearly 30% of Chile's vineyard and still makes some of its finest wines, be it blends or as a single variety. Of course, some of the wines can be a bit dull and samey or international, but not all. And good to touch on Carmenère here as well, I think. Another great story. A variety lost to Bordeaux after phylloxera in the 19th century. It comes to Chile, but for some reason is subsumed into the Merlot vineyard. Then, in 1994, it's discovered, its cover is blown in the Chilean vineyard, and the reason Chile was making such delicious Merlot is revealed. It was actually Carmenère, not Merlot at all.
No, just like Cabernet Sauvignon. You know, the Chileans have moved away recently from overripe, over-oaked, overly alcoholic Carmenère to make far more elegant, drinkable, varietal wines that show that sort of characteristic herbal, roasted pepper, you know, sort of pure fruited characters that's so Carmenère. It's so exciting right now, Carmenère, and more elegant Cabernets as well. So many good value Carmenères. Again, you know, a process of fine-tuning, which is, I think, what's making all the difference in Chile in terms of fine wine production. Those little changes, attention to detail.
And then lastly, of course, great value Pinot Noir.
There we
the
go.
Holy grail for wine lovers.
Yes.
But it's not just luck.
Yeah.
It's having worked to find the right soils, the right microclimates. Errázuriz also, of course, makes Las Pizarras, a really expensive Pinot Noir and Chardonnay. And that was the result of incredibly detailed terroir studies. So this kind of affordable little sibling is a direct result of that.
Absolutely. Okay, so do take care in the Stampede to buy that one down your local supermarket.
I think my mum's going to be there.
We will see you there. But, you know, we're going to carry on with the Pinot Noir theme now because we are talking to Matias Rios of Cono Sur. They achieved outstanding results with Ossio Pinot Noir, Silencio Cabernet Sauvignon and Single Vineyard number 23 Riesling, all with top scores. So much so that Cono Sur was named Best Producer 2024.
Matías was a little emotional when we broke the news, as you'll hear. He was also in a hotel lobby on a whirlwind tour of the UK, which explains the dodgy sound. But this is a lovely story because Matías first joined Connoisseur in 2003. He filled some very big shoes when Adolfo Hurtado left in 2018. It can't have been easy, but his wines are now shining very brightly, a testament to some brilliant work.
Yeah, you know, Connoisseur initially started life in 1993 as an offshoot of the Chilean behemoth Concha y Toro, making good value stuff, including Pinot Noir. It sort of kept that specialism, but it's broadened out to excellent effect since, including into fine wine. So I asked Matías what the secret to making great Pinot Noir in Chile is.
First, I think more than secret is the experience we have the years and years. We follow the place, we follow the vineyards. We have a really nice vineyards in Casablanca Valley and also in San Antonio Valley. And then for me, the more important, Peter, is go to picking the ripeness of the grapes and taste them, and taste them, and taste them. And ripeness but never overripes, more freshness style, and then we'll repeat the same in the cellar.
Interesting. So you're using your experience to make a wine that's increasingly elegant and delicate and reflective of its place. And that shows through, I think, in the wine as well. So now, Cabernet Sauvignon is Chile's most widely planted grape variety by far. Yeah. How do you, with your Silencio, go about making a wine that can really stand out from the rest?
We try to reflect all of our experience in Pinot Noir, delicate, fruity juiciness, in Cabernet Sauvignon. What happened that I remember before the 2010 when I go to taste the grape of Cabernet, and I say, yeah, it's good, but I wait 1 week more, and I come in next week to taste the grape. I say, nice, but I wait 1 week more. Finally, we delayed the harvest, and we have a really nice wines. But when you taste the wine, you don't taste the wine. You eat the wine because it's too heavy, too strong. We say, okay, if we want to develop one Cabernet in connoisseur view, we have to wait when it's ripe, but when never is overripe. And the result is wines with a lot of red fruit, freshness, long palate, soft tannin, because we need to have a right tannin. It's Cabernet from Maipo, but always with juiciness.
What is the most exciting thing in Chilean wine right now?
Well, good question. I think we are moving a little bit of the freshness style. The freshness style, delicate style, I think that is trendy today in Chile. And the expression of the place with diversity of our country. Cabernet from Maipo is the more famous we have in Chile, but right now appears the cool climate valleys. Pinot Noir is not only in connoisseur. We have a lot of people who start to develop that, and I think Pinot Noir from Chile is right now have a really good name.
How do you see the future for Chilean wine?
I think we continue in the ways to make show the really more than premium wine is fine wines. And we can search the right varieties in the right place. I think that is the future. My dreams is we can to recognize Riesling from Bio Bio, Pinot Noir from San Antonio, Cabernet from Maipo, Carmener from Cachapoal, and we have key wines in the key place. I remember years ago when people asked me, what is the variety from Chile? The more easy answer is Cabernet Sauvignon or Carmener. But I think in a little bit, and I ask, what is the best variety from France? No have one. You have one of, Loire, Burgundy. I think the same in Chile because we have a lot of diversity, a lot of expression, different soil, different, and we have one or two varieties for each place, not one from Chile, one from which area of Chile with a high level of wine.
Matías, congratulations again on winning Best Producer 2024, and thank you very much indeed for talking to us.
I feel it in my body. I have a small chemical answer inside my body. It's a dream. Really, I really emotional.
So an emotional Matías there. But, I think he and his team have worked so hard over the years to fine-tune their art, and it really shows in the wines.
Totally. That whole thing about picking when the grapes are ripe but not overripe, and you have to taste for that and have experience, that all makes total sense, as does his comment about having to eat wines that are overdone, not drink them. I thought that was so funny. That was brilliant. Like
and actually interesting how their Pinot Noir expertise is informing their approach to Cabernet Sauvignon.
Yes.
Again, that shows, But I do think his comment about Pinot Noir in Chile being exciting is valid. In 1994, there were 138 hectares of Pinot Noir in Chile. Now there are about 4,000 hectares. And especially as those vines mature, we're starting to see some really top Pinot Noirs. And also some brilliant value ones. So well worth a look for Burgundy fans.
The right varieties in the right places, including his Riesling from Bio Bio, where it's dry, farmed, organic, just so expressive and delicious, and great value too.
Absolutely. Now, time for our last guest. Edgard Carter and Corinne Mollenauer together make up Carter Mollenauer, a producer focused on making really individual wines from the south. Their Aurora de Tata País and Ciénaga de Name Carignan were both wines of the year, with the wild, scented, deliciously juicy Carignan also winning Red Discovery.
Now, Carignan is an intriguing part of Chile's wine history. It came over in the early 20th century mainly. It's thought to sort of lend colour and structure to naturally lighter grapes like País, but also because it's pretty productive vine, especially when it's young. But now, old vine Carignan in Chile is making seriously characterful, intense wines, sometimes a bit too much so, which Edgard makes reference to when we talk to him.
Now, I asked him to tell us a bit about Carignan in Chile.
Yeah, well, it's going through an evolution in terms of how the wines are shown to the world. I think it's a great evolution. It's a learning process. Carignan was thought to be the companion of País. That's why Carignan arrived in Chile. But then making Carignan by itself, not together in blending with País, doing it by itself, I think we have learned a lot in these past years. How to move out of rusticity, how to do wines that are more focused on finesse and elegance. I think it's a great journey we've gone through as a country.
And in terms of País, is it the same? I know it's not an easy grape to make well into wine. What is the journey with País?
The journey with País, it's our relation with wine. It's together with País forever. Wine started in the 1550s in Chile, 474 years ago. So, yeah, we're a new world, but I would like to talk about Mezzo world also. we honor a different stage, maybe not old world, but also we've been doing wine for 474 years. And we started with País. So the journey is much longer, but I think in terms of how we show, as I told you at the beginning, how we are showing the País to the world, it's been going through a revision. I think the new versions of País we are making as a country, it's a story similar to what happened with Carignan in the past, but a much longer story with the grape.
I'm just gonna quote you, Edgard, a moment. And you said, if Chile wants to make the world fall in love with its wines, we must go beyond just making good and correct wines. What do you mean by that? And in what way do your wines reflect that philosophy?
It's like personalities with persons. You fall in love with character. Character goes together with understanding that being how you are has costs and benefits. And the nice thing about it is that people can fall in love with you because the good things on you shine, but then you need to assume that you're not going to be everything. You can't be everything. And I think in wine, it's the same thing. I think Chile already demonstrated that we are able to do good wines. You move forward into personality and character, that means that some things are not going to be on that one. So, we are Carter Morgenhauer, we're doing this País 2023, from Itata, from Granite, old vines, and the wine, this is the wine. But this wine, it lacks some things. Yes, it lacks some things, but that's what it is. And if you knock one door and they tell you, but I would like a full-bodied red, I think it lacks this and that, I will go on and knock another door and show the brightness and the nice thing about that wine instead of taking note of what it lacks. And I think that's the way to go, to be respected, to be somebody in the world, to put your flag.
That's beautifully put. So if you had an insider tip, what would it be?
Taste the places. And also, if you have the time, try to come to Santiago, into the regions, know the places. You will realize that what you have in your head and how Chile looks like in your imagination, when you go to those places, you will realize that it resembles much more the old world than the new world. So I would invite you to come to Chile, to walk those vineyards, to breathe that different atmosphere and eat our seafood and come to taste our Pacific seafood and match it with our wines.
How do you see the future for Chilean wine?
With 500 little wineries being successful, being able to sell our wines and to have a specific place in each market. When you walk into the bottle stores and the wine stores, and you go through Bourgogne and you go through Chablis and Champagne, that you can have an Itata place, a Maule place, and that gondola to be filled of great human and quality-driven wines. That's the future that I see for Chile.
Taste the places. Love that.
Yeah, I think I might just take him up on his invitation to breathe the different atmosphere in Chile and eat their seafood and match it with their wines.
I'm sure you would. It sounds
very
delicious,
happy to say yes to that.
Yeah, and you know, his comment about Chile being neither new nor old world, but instead some sort of mezzo world. I love that. It's great, isn't it? You know, but it's a good point. You know, Chile's wine history is often forgotten or overlooked, so it's a really important point to stress here. You know, and with these old vines and revival of old school winemaking, we are seeing all of that becoming a key part of the modern diversity and intrigue of Chilean wine.
Okay, so I'm aware this is a very long programme and we need to wrap things up. We've covered loads, but there is still so much more we could have said and recommended. Please do check out the Wines of the Year report on our website, susieandpeter.com, and do try some of these wines because they are stunning.
They are. Thanks to Felipe Marin, Ricardo Bettig, María Cumsille, Francois Massoc, Eduardo Chadwick, Matias Rios and Edgard Carter. Congratulations in addition to Roberto Enriquez, who also won a major award, Red Innovation, for his País Franco 2022. Thanks again to Wines of Chile for sponsoring this initiative, and thanks to you for listening. Until next time, cheers.